Welcome to Devar Torah class, and we are up to part 2. So, if you want to, you are just going to continue from last week because um, um, we spoke about the five or six things that happened on the 15th of Av, and that's what we spoke about last class. So let's continue on that topic. And yeah, so we so all those things that happened on the 15th of Av, there must be something, one point that because of what happened, something or some point, everything that happened is a result of the main issue. Okay, now I can review it very, very, very quickly just to get into the swing of things here. Okay, so the first thing of the 15th of when the Jewish people were in the desert, and then they died every year. The Jewish people, whoever was coming 60 passed, and every year on Tisha B'av, and 40 years later, the 38 years or 39 years, whatever it was, they realized that the death, that decree was taken away from them. Then we got the tribes were able to intermarry one to the other. First, they were not allowed to marry into each other, and then they were allowed to marry into each other. That was the 15th of Av. We spoke about the king of the Jewish the kings of tribe of Yisrael, the 10 tribes. The Rav Ben Avat, the head of the king of the other tribes. You see, the Jewish people divided in two kingdoms, so he didn't let any of the 10 tribes go to the Bet HaMikdash, go to the temple, and that was taken away by his share Ben Gamla. If that's his name. Well, I think that's not sure. Anyway, he took away that decree, and he took away the separation, those guards, and he let everyone go on to the temple. And then we got the story with Beitar, when all the Jewish, there was a big, terrible, terrible massacre on the one of the 5 things that happened. Tishba was that massacre of Beitar, and millions of Jews were killed, and they weren't given permission to bury. And when it came the 15th of 22, they get permission to bury those people. Oh, the king's name was Asher ben Elah. Sorry, Asher ben Elah. That was his name. Anyway, and then the tribes of Benjamin were, when they permitted the tribe of Benjamin to intermarry with the Jewish people. That all happened the 15th of Av. So the question is, what is the main theme of the 15th of Av, which because of this theme, everything else happened? And the Rebbe explains like this, that as we know, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, was the destruction of the temple. That's the worst thing that happened to Jewish people, right? The destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. Now, what was the cause of the destruction? Well, the cause of the second Beth Hamikdash destruction, which is more relevant to us because we're still, as a result of the destruction of the second temple, was sinas chinam, which means for no reason, free hatred for hating another Jew. Unfortunately, that was the cause of destruction. Okay, so what's the 15th of Av? The 15th is the fixing, the fixing what of the remedy, the repairing of the of the of the of the destruction that happened. Okay, fixing the issue. Now, let's just understand a little bit what we're talking about over here. The Jewish people are compared to the moon. Okay, the nations of the world are count compared to the sun. We compare to it, meaning, say, like for example, we count our months is the moon months. We count the months. We count called the cycle of the moon. Now the moon has changes, right? It goes smaller, smaller until the 15th, and then it goes bigger. Sorry, the beginning of it's small and it gets bigger until the 15th, and then it goes smaller down from the 15th to the end of the month. Now, this 15th of August is the most happiest day of the year. Why? Because if the moon is complete, we compare to the moon. Okay, if that's the reason why the 15th of it can be every month has a 15th. What's so special about the month of Av? Pesach, for example, the 15th of the month of Nisan. Sichos is 15th of the month of Tishrei also. But they none of them have this down in the month of Av. Month of Av, we had the destruction temple. Our luck, our muscle went way down. Worst possible situation. When we repair that, when it comes to the 15th of the month, when the moon is complete, that's fixed. That what's lacking. Okay. Now, another issue, as we just mentioned earlier, the 15th of the destruction of the temple was because of sinas chinam, hatred for no reason. So we have to find to the 15th of Av, which we said it before, is a remedy for the destruction of the temple. You have to have free love, avat chinam. So we need to find in this 15th of Av has many things. The theme is the idea is of loving a fellow Jew. That's the theme of 15th of Av. Now, how does that? And because of that, that's how everything is a result of that concept of the fixing, the repairing what was destroyed, what was ruined, what was damaged, and everything. All the things that happened on the 15th of Av is a result of that. Okay, even though it happened in a span of over 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years, because the first one was when the Jewish people left Egypt, right, before even entered Israel, and the last thing they gave permission to bury those who were murdered by Beitar was after the destruction of the Second Temple, which is already with 50, maybe close to 1,500 years later. Close, maybe 1,500 years later. So it's a long time. Well, 1,500. We'll say. Okay, maybe 1,300 or something like that. Quite a while later. Anyway, so let's go through the issue. Let's go through the concepts one after the other, and we'll explain you how you see the theme of loving a fellow Jew. Okay, let's start with the first one. The first one was that those who died in the temple. Sorry, those who died in the desert. Every year they died in the month of Tish, a month of Av. They'll go down the ground, make their actually they'll make their own grave, and they won't get out the next morning. When the 15th, when they came the last year, they woke up every day. They woke up in the morning. Hey, did we make a mistake in the date? When they came the 15th, they realized, oh, the moon's complete. The decree is over. Now you have all the unity. All the Jewish people going to Israel. 15th of Av was the first thing. Sorry, excuse me. The 9th of Av, that's when God decreed that you're not going to go to the land of Israel, right? The spies came back, gave a bad report. The Jewish people cried, we don't want to go to Israel. God said, you don't want to go, you're not going to go. You cry for nothing. I mean, it's not a cry for something. So they didn't. So the 9th of Av is destruction of the temple. The 5th of Av, and not going to Israel. The 5th of Av shows that all who are alive is going to go to Israel, is going to inherit the land. All Jews in unity are going to get the land. Then the next thing we can talk about. What's the next thing that happened? As we said earlier, that the tribes were not allowed to marry into each other. Why were they allowed to marry into each other? Because the inheritance goes, a person passes his inheritance goes to his children. Okay, if you have a son, it goes to the son. Well, you only have daughters. If she marries someone from a different tribe, then she's going to take the possession from one tribe and give it to another tribe, right? So they want to go at a different tribe in order that the portions should stay within that tribe. Once they're allowed to marry into each other, then you can connect. Then the portion for one tribe can go to another tribe. It's the idea of unity, right? They're all Jews can. It's not like each part of Israel is a separate tribe. Everybody can have a part of everything. All the Jews can have a connection to the whole, to every part of Israel. So we see the idea of unity, how all the Jews are connected to one another. That we're all going to inherit. We can all take part in every part. All right. Then we can go to the next part. When the next thing that happened on the 15th of Av, when the tribes of Benjamin, as we spoke last week, the whole story with when they did what they did with Pelegash Giva, with the concubine of Giva, and they decreed that we cannot marry into the tribe of Binyamin. Then they took away that decree. 15th of Av, again unity. All that of day of unity is to rebuild, bring back what was missing, what was lacking. A day of unity, Ahavas Yisrael. Then the next thing, what happened on the 15th of Av, as we said earlier, with the tribes of what's the name? The tribe of the 10 tribes, and they were separated from the two, the Yehuda and Yisrael. It was called the Yisrael, which is the 10 that had one king, and then the two tribes, Yehuda and Benjamin, had another king. They were separated. They weren't able to go. The 10 tribes were not able to go and celebrate in the temple. Excuse me. They weren't able to celebrate with the rest of the Jewish people. They weren't able to. It wasn't. He didn't want unity. The Rav Ben Avat tried to separate Jews one from another. Once Hoshea ben Elah came, and he took away the guards, the soldiers that were, but didn't let the Jews go to the temple to celebrate in the temple. Then you have the idea of unity among the Jewish people, right? All the Jews can celebrate in the same Beit Hamikdash. Again, of unity. It's one. All these concepts. The idea of unity.
Jimmy, you're mute. Yeah. Go get the washcloth and wash your face.
Between, between one, they were all the. What was I saying? Yeah, the Jews were able to have unity with one another. Okay, then we go to what's the next thing that we said? As you said that there was, we spoke about it last week, that they would cut wood for the Beit Hamikdash. Okay, now they needed wood because they're bringing sacrifices, and the wood cannot have any worms in the wood. If you have any worms in the wood, it would they will be disqualified for to use on the altar on the mizbeach. So you had to. So they wouldn't cut it when the sun is shining strong. Then the worms will not go into the wood. They'll go into trees that are not, which are getting not so getting wet because it's not so. They go to trees that are wet, are not so dry, and they'll go into those trees. But so when there's a sun, from the month of Nisan until the 15th of Av, which is Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, 4.5 months, they'll be cutting wood for the whole year. That's when they'll cut the wood for the rest of the year. So they stopped cutting it on the 15th of Av, and they made a big celebration. They call it Yom Tov HaMakah, the day that we break the axe or the sickle was broken. What's the idea? They broke it. They made a whole celebration, a whole Yom Tov. What's the idea? The idea is that Jewish people want to bring sacrifices in the Beit HaMikdash. If you want to bring a sacrifice, you have to have wood. There are certain people who donated wood that all the other Jews, whoever wants, can come and bring their sacrifices. Again, you see the idea of unity. About the unity of all the Jewish people, the unity that that anyone who wants can come and bring sacrifices. There were Jews who had the wood and donated it for other Jews that are able to use it for what they need. So again, you see the idea of unity. And the question is, why you say break? Why you want to break something? Jewish people don't break. You take everything in the world to use Hashem, use it to serve God. Why do you break things? That's a famous story. Just by the way, just to explain what I'm trying to say, that they said that the Chassidim, followers of the Alter Rebbe, were saying that the Alter Rebbe broke the snuff box, the lid of a snuff box, in order to use it as a mirror for his film. So he broke the lid of the snuff box. When his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, heard that, he said, "No, my grandfather did not break anything. He took the lid, he took the hinge that separates the top from, that connects the top from the bottom, took the hinge, and therefore the lid of this stuff box was able to use for a mirror. He didn't break the lid of a mirror. He didn't break the lid of a snuff box, because we take a lot of utilize it for God. We don't break things. So why are you breaking? You don't need it anymore. So use it next year. Put it aside, put it in a storage, and when you need it, and then next time, when it comes this, and then 8 months from whatever, 6, 7, whatever months from then, you use it again. Why do you have to break it? What's the explanation? The explanation is because the idea of wood of Beit Hamikdash, of the Mizbeach, the altar, is to lengthen the life of people. Metal decreases the life of a person. Therefore, on the altar, you can't put any metal on the altar. No metal can touch the altar. Once any metal does, that stone is disqualified. You have to replace the stone. Because metal is created to decrease the life of a person. The altar is meant to increase the life of a person. So she shouldn't put metal on the altar. Now, so yes, we needed a sickle for what we needed it for, to cut the wood. But once that job is done, we don't want to keep that. We don't want to even keep that available. We don't have anything metal that breaks, metal that used for iron, such a thing. We want to break it. We don't because we want to have this bath to lengthen the life of a person, to lengthen the life of the Jewish people, to increase, not to decrease. Again, idea of unity. When I have the altar, and we want to bring sacrifices, and every Jew can bring sacrifices. The idea of unity among the Jewish people. Okay, and then we got to the last thing that we spoke about earlier, was those who were murdered on Beitar. Okay, they had a revolt against the Roman king there, and then there was a terrible war and terrible destruction. Millions of Jews were murdered on the Tisha B'Av, and they weren't able to be buried. When were they? They gave permission. I think maybe I said last week that they used their bodies for so cruel. They took their bodies and they used it as walls for the vineyards and the fields. Isn't that terrible? Taking dead bodies, and that's what they used it for. And God made a miracle. The bodies did not decompose for 22 years. And finally, the Roman government gave permission to bury those bodies. And they're buried on the 15th of Av. So again, we see the idea of fixing Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av was their destruction. When they're buried, that kind of completes, heals what was done, the terrible disaster that was done to them. You see, it's connected, inconnected, but I'll say it anyway. When a person passes, we have to make sure and do whatever we can to bury the person. Okay? If any relative, or anyone has someone who they know and wants to be cremated, God forbid, do whatever you can to stop that. It's the soul could not rest in heaven properly if he's not buried. The biggest favor and honor to the person who passed to see is bury them. And even if they write, I don't want to be buried, I want to be cremated, just they don't know them. They don't understand how important it is to be buried. I want to keep the wishes of that person who deceased, and they say that don't. That is one should override that because they don't realize when they're in the world of truth, they'll realize what mistake they made, and we don't. And then they can't communicate anymore. Anyway, in regular channels. So it's very, very, very important to bury a person who passed. We do whatever we can to make sure that person is buried. It's the biggest honor and the biggest favor that the soul can rest in heaven when his body is buried down here. And then when body, God willing, will be resurrected, Mashiach will come. Anyway, so the idea of the 15th of Av was when we completed or remedy somewhat to the destruction that happened in Tishba. So the theme of all the steps, all the things that happened on Tishba, on the 15th of Av, is all the same theme. The idea of loving a fellow Jew, the idea of having the temple, the idea of Bnei Mikdash, the idea of all the Jews united, and that's that theme. Everything goes through. So may we have increase in loving a fellow Jew, and doing is the smile. Good morning. Just they say a smile is contagious, doesn't cost anything. Say good morning, how are you? Good afternoon. That type of thing gives it makes people happy, and you make another Jew happy. It's the greatest mitzvah you can possibly do. And then with that will be zeicha to the coming of Mashiach. Never underestimate your potential. Just saying an hello, just doing a small thing. The Rambam says the world is on an equal scale, and one good deed can tip the world in the positive. So may I have a good week, and Mr. Shem, we continue next time. Be well. Thanks for joining. Have a good week, everybody.